Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm joined by Tommy, aka Tommy Shelby. I am going to be doing another book unhaul because I recently reorganized my bookshelf and I did a bookshelf tour as well. I'll leave the video linked everywhere. So I unhauled some books again, and I love unhauling books, and I love just thinking about books that I never want to reread again, or just that I don't feel anything for anymore. And then I just, you know, taking those books off my shelf and either giving them to a friend or selling them or bringing them to a thrift shop. It just feels good to only look at the books on my shelf and think like, oh, these are all of the books that I genuinely love or that I'm genuinely interested in reading. So let's take a look at the books that I will be unhauling today. The first book is Atonement by Ian McEwan. I have actually never read this book. It's been on my shelf for 4.5 years now. I bought this one in 2016 in London at a secondhand store, and I just never picked it up, and I was interested in picking it up, but then someone actually said to me that the writer Ian McEwan has said some very transphobic things, so I don't really feel the need to support this author anymore, hence why I won't be reading this book. The next book is A Curse So Dark and Lonely by Bridget Camera. This is this very beautiful Fairyloot edition, and it's signed as well. But the thing is, I read this book and I enjoyed it, but I have just zero interest in continuing with this series. This is a YA Beauty and the Beast retelling. It was definitely a very fun read, but I'm just not really into these type of series anymore. So yeah, I don't really feel the need to have this book on my shelf anymore. Hence why I also will be getting rid of this. Next up, I'm getting rid of my copies of The Cuckoo's Calling, The Silkworm and Career of Evil by Robert Galbraith, aka J.K. Rowling. I have no interest in continuing with this series, not only because I didn't necessarily love the books a lot, but also because I do not support J.K. Rowling anymore. I tried reading the third one when it was just released a few years ago, I believe. Couldn't get into it, so those are enough reasons to be getting rid of these books. Then next up we have Children of Blood and Bone by Tommy Adeyemi. This is actually the same reason as with A Curse So Dark and Lonely. This is also a YA fantasy series that I really enjoyed. This is the first book and I read it when it was just released. That is quite some time ago, I believe. I did really enjoy it, but I have just no interest in continuing with this series. So I've thought about reading the second book a lot of times, but then I just never got around to actually picking it up. So yeah, I will also be unhauling this one, and that's that. Then I have Truth or Dance by Chinook Thijssen. This is a Dutch book about a ballet academy and like blackmail, and it was quite fun. A bit dark as well, and this is a trilogy, but again, I'm just not really interested in continuing with this series. This is also a young adult book, and I'm just not that much into young adult anymore, as you can probably tell by the books that I'm unhauling. But yeah, same story. I'm just not interested in continuing with the rest of this series. I have so many series that I DNF or that I never really finish. Sometimes I've read like 3 or 4 books in a series, and then it just still takes me a lot of like effort to actually pick up the next book. It's so weird. I definitely prefer standalones over series, although I listened to the entire Bridgerton series of 8 books in 2 weeks. So I can do it. I still can't believe I did that, but yeah, another series. Then the next book is All the Bright Places by Jennifer Niven. This is one of those classic booktube YA contemporary books. This is a really sad book. I honestly can't remember what it was about, but I do remember when I read it, exactly where I was when I read it, and when like the sad things happened. I was in the back of the car. We were on holiday lots of years ago. I think this book is also already quite old. 2015. Oh my goodness, this is nearly 6 years old. And then I was like crying in the back of the car because I was really sad. So I thought it was definitely a very beautiful book. I really enjoyed it, but I have just no interest in continue, or like, this is no series. I have no interest in rereading this one. Hence why this will also have to go. Next up, another series. Arusha and the End of Time by Roshani Chokshi. This is a middle grade series. This is a sort of retelling, mythology inspired, and this was a very fun book. It's middle grade. I think I gave it like 3 out of 5 stars. I really liked the adventure aspect of this book, but that was it. It was just really fun, but I have just no interest in continuing with the series. If I make a list of all of the series I DNF'd in my life, there's a lot. Next up we have The Upside of Falling by Alex Light. This is a Wattpad book that is actually published into an actual book. and this is a YA contemporary fake romance to romance. It was really fun, but it wasn't really my cup of tea. I thought it was quite just a bit boring. Not much depth into this book, so I think I gave this one like 2.5 out of 5 stars. So yeah, it was just a fun audiobook. I listened to it on audiobook, and I wanted to just read some more books of my physical TBR, so that's why I picked it up. But I would never have picked this up myself in a bookstore or whatever, but I got this one in a book box once, so I thought I'd give it a try. It was fun, but yeah, it wasn't amazing. Next up, we have An American Marriage by Tayari Jones. I tried reading this book 3 times, and 3 times I couldn't get into it. So this is about a black man named Roy who is sentenced to 12 years in prison for something he didn't do. And they also follow his wife Celestial, you know, being at home and her life without him, and you know what she's going to do. I just couldn't get into his book. I think I read like 40 pages every time I wanted to try listening to the audiobook. I was genuinely interested in reading this book, but I just couldn't get into it. So after 3 times I finally decided, no, I'm not going to try it again. This is just not the book for me. And then the last book I'm going to be unhauling today is Ferris by Marissa Meyer. This is a novella that is all about the Lunar Chronicles. So a Lunar Chronicles novella. So this is about the evil queen Levana, and I really like the Lunar Chronicles. I read them a lot of years ago when they were still very hyped and everything. I do still have the Lunar Chronicles because I actually want to reread those books one day, but I'm actually not too interested in rereading this novella. I just want to have the original series. I don't need any of the, you know, side books anymore. So I'm also going to be getting rid of this one, but I did really enjoy this one, and I think this cover is so creepy, and it was very interesting reading about the queen's story, the bad queen or the evil queen. But yeah, I don't really think I will ever reread this, but I will definitely reread the Lunar Chronicles series one day. So this was a short little unhaul. Let me know if there are some books in this pile that you've also unhauled, or if you are unhauling some books yourself as well. And don't forget to check out my bookshelf tour and my bookshelf reorganization video. I really hope you liked this video. Please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, and you can follow me on my social media and on my Patreon page. I always link everything down below in the description. In the description. And last but not least, I really hope you're having a very amazing day, and I will hopefully see you in my next video.